Okay, so have you ever like walked past a bakery
Hmm.
and gotten hit with that like wall of amazing smells
Oh, yeah,
and thought,
totally.
man, maybe I should just
Yeah.
become a baker?
It's so tempting, right?
It's like a fantasy.
Yeah. Like any job,
Yeah,
it's easy to just see, like,
the good
the
parts.
Instagram version,
Exactly.
not the reality.
Which is why we are doing this deep dive.
Love it.
We are diving deep into what it takes to actually be a baker.
Okay.
We're using this awesome guide from RoleCatcher.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Baker, the complete career guide.
I've heard of this.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's good. They don't sugarcoat anything,
No, they don't.
which I appreciate.
And that's what's so cool about them.
Yeah.
They analyze thousands of jobs
Wow.
to give you the real deal.
Not just like, oh, it's all
Oh.
sprinkles and rainbow.
Yeah, exactly.
They tell you like it is.
Okay, so speaking of the real deal,
Yeah.
one of the things I found super interesting was how RoleCatcher breaks down the daily tasks,
Okay.
because it's not all just like, oh, I'm going to mix some dough and bake a cake.
It's a lot more than that.
Like way more.
So much more.
They mention things like receiving raw ingredients.
Which, let's be real,
Yeah.
that's like 50-pound bags of flour
Oh, yeah.
at 3 in the morning.
Oh, gosh.
Not so glamorous.
Not quite the Instagrammable moment.
Exactly.
And then there's the whole industrial oven situation.
Those things are huge.
Intense.
Yeah.
And a little intimidating, I bet.
Definitely not your grandma's oven.
Not even close.
No.
And remember when we were talking about the possibility of heat exhaustion?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not so glamorous, is it?
Not really.
So if you're thinking, okay, but the smells,
Yeah.
those will get me through the early mornings.
Right.
Let's talk money.
Okay.
Because
Good.
RoleCatcher says the median starting salary for a baker
Yeah.
is around $30,000 a year.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's a reality check.
Big time.
Right.
You really got to love it.
You have to.
For that starting out.
Especially if you're like switching careers. Okay. But before we scare everyone off,
Please.
RoleCatcher does have some good news.
Okay. Good.
The industry itself is
Yeah.
supposed to grow like 5% in the next few years.
Okay.
Which is decent.
That's solid.
Yeah, and get this.
What?
RoleCatcher's data shows that if you specialize,
Okay.
you can earn way more.
Like how much more are we talking?
Well, think like
Okay.
artisanal breads,
Mm-hmm.
fancy pastries,
Oh, yeah.
the kind of stuff that people will pay extra for.
Right, because everyone's got to have that like
Exactly.
$10 croissant.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
So that's good news for bakers.
So it seems like specializing is
Yeah.
the way to go.
Potentially.
Interesting.
So you're telling me there's a way to level up in the baking world,
That's what it sounds like.
but how do you actually become like the sourdough master or the pastry prodigy?
It's not just about knowing one recipe, is it?
Right. That can't be that easy.
I mean, I wish it was.
Me too.
But this is where RoleCatcher's data gets really interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
They've actually mapped out these career stages for bakers.
Okay.
And while everyone's journey is different,
Right.
it gives you a sense of like
Yeah.
how you might progress in this field.
Okay.
And get this, they have 5 distinct stages.
5.
5.
Okay, so it's not as simple as I thought.
Maybe not.
From like total beginner
Yeah.
to like master baker, I guess.
Exactly. They go all the way from entry level
Right.
to like the top of the game.
All right, so let's break it down a little bit.
Okay.
Say you're just starting out.
Yeah.
You're a total newbie in the baking world.
Mm-hmm.
What does RoleCatcher call that first stage?
They call it the junior baker phase.
Junior baker. I like it.
Sounds kind of cute, right?
Yeah.
But don't be fooled. It's still a lot of hard work.
I bet.
They're learning the ropes,
Okay.
mastering those fundamentals.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking mixing doughs.
Yeah, okay.
Learning how to shape different breads and getting comfortable with those industrial ovens we talked about.
Right, because burning things on that level,
Yeah.
that's a no-no.
Big time no-no.
High stakes.
Exactly. High stakes baking.
So
Yeah.
at what point do they become
Mm-hmm.
like the specialization gurus?
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we imagining like
Yeah.
junior bakers going home
Yeah.
and like secretly experimenting with sourdough starters
Exactly.
in their tiny apartments?
Maybe. It could happen, right?
I mean, I hope so.
But RoleCatcher actually highlights something really cool.
Okay.
In their example profile for a junior baker,
Yeah.
they specifically talk about how they collaborate with senior bakers
Yeah.
to develop new recipes.
So they're in the mix
right there.
from the beginning.
Observing, learning.
maybe even contributing to those specialty items.
That's awesome.
Right.
Like you're getting paid to learn.
Exactly.
And you get to see the creative side.
It's like
Where'd that go?
a paid apprenticeship
That's amazing.
where you're not just like
Yeah.
washing dishes and like
Right.
sweeping the floor.
Yeah, actually, like,
You're in it.
in the lab.
You're like the mad scientist
Yes.
of baking.
That's a great way to put it.
And this is where like that whole baking as a science thing
Yeah.
becomes so real.
Totally.
RoleCatcher talks about
Yeah.
how like
Yeah.
the protein content in different types of flour
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
can totally change the texture.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Huh. I never knew that.
It's wild.
Oh.
And a junior baker,
Yeah.
they're starting to pick up on these things.
So it's like next level.
It is. It's next level baking.
Right.
They're not just following a recipe.
Right.
They're understanding the why.
The science behind it?
Exactly.
But okay, let's be real for a sec.
Okay.
You probably need more than just knowing how to, like,
Yes.
measure flour to
Right.
survive in a professional kitchen.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Like you could be the most talented baker,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can't handle the heat,
Literally.
literally,
Yeah.
then you're not going to last.
So RoleCatcher actually talks about this
They
too.
They have a whole section on this.
Yeah.
The hard skills and the soft skills you need.
Okay. So we've got the hard skills.
Yeah.
Measuring accurately,
Mm-hmm.
knowing your oven temperatures,
Yeah.
knowing how to like knead,
All that good stuff.
but soft skills in the kitchen. Okay.
What does that even look like?
Okay, so picture this.
Yeah.
You're in a busy kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Orders are coming in like crazy.
Yeah.
You've got deadlines.
Well,
Those croissants,
yeah.
they're not going to proof themselves.
That's true.
Right. So you got to be on top of it.
Yeah.
You need serious time management skills.
Time management is key.
Key. And it's not just you.
You're part of a team.
Okay.
So communication,
Yeah.
huge.
Right. You've got to be able to talk to people.
Exactly. You're going to be able to take direction,
Yeah.
maybe even handle some critiques.
Oh, yeah.
Like what if the head baker says, your croissants
Hmm.
need a little more work,
Yeah. Ouch.
right? You got to be able to roll with it.
So it's just like any other job then.
It is.
You got to have the skills.
Yep.
But you also got to play with others.
Be a team player.
Okay. But there's another like factor in all of this.
What's that?
And it's kind of a big one
Oh, no.
that we haven't even touched on yet.
Okay, now I'm nervous.
Robots.
The robots.
Yeah. RoleCatcher mentions them.
They do.
Yeah. Like
Oh, no.
they say that automation is
No.
impacting the baking industry.
I mean, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere we turn.
Everywhere you look, it's like,
Uh,
go, beep, beep, boop. Robots are taking over.
Are they going to take our sourdough?
That's what I want to know.
Should I just give up now? I mean, it's a little scary, isn't it?
It's definitely something to think about.
So, like, what does RoleCatcher say about how automation is actually, like, changing things for bakers?
Well, they do talk about how
Yeah.
there are more automated tasks now,
Okay.
especially in those big industrial bakeries,
Makes sense.
right? Like think about those jobs that are kind of repetitive,
Mm-hmm.
where you need to be super precise,
Yeah.
like portioning out dough
Right.
or like mixing huge quantities of ingredients.
Yeah.
That's where robots really come in handy.
So does that mean, like, those 3 a.m. flour runs are over?
Maybe. I mean,
Part of me is like, yes, please. But
Yeah.
then the other part of me is like, wait,
Yeah.
what about my job?
well, and that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Like what happens to the human baker
Exactly.
when the robots show up?
Yeah.
And RoleCatcher actually addresses that.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. And basically what
Okay.
they're seeing is that automation might be taking over some of those
Yeah.
like really routine things,
Mm-hmm.
but the stuff that requires like real
Good.
artistry and
Yeah.
creativity, that human touch.
Right.
Robots haven't quite figured that out yet.
So there's still hope for us.
I think
for
there are.
those of us who want to
Yeah.
put our heart and soul into our sourdough.
Exactly. And think about it.
Yeah.
People are willing to pay more
Oh, yeah.
for something that's handmade,
That's true.
for something that has a story behind it.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
the difference between like a
Yeah.
painting you buy at a store
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
an original piece of art.
Exactly.
Okay, so maybe robots aren't going to be taking our jobs tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
But RoleCatcher does say that it's really important for
Us.
bakers to be
Yeah.
lifelong learners.
Oh, 100%.
Which, like, what does that even mean?
So it's not about
Yeah.
like learning how to code a robot.
Okay, good. Although,
Maybe someday, right?
maybe.
But it's more about being open to
Yeah.
new trends,
Yeah.
new ingredients, new techniques.
Because, like,
Because the baking industry,
yeah.
it never stops changing.
Right, like gluten-free baking.
Exactly.
That wasn't really a thing like 10 years ago.
And now look at it.
Exactly.
It's everywhere.
So you got to stay on top of things.
You got to be ready to learn new things.
So even if you've got your, like,
Yeah.
signature croissant recipe down,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just, like, rest on your laurels.
Exactly. You got to keep experimenting.
So it's not just about knowing how to bake.
Right.
It's about being, like, adaptable.
Being curious.
Right.
Being willing to, like,
Yeah,
step outside your comfort zone.
I like that.
Try new things.
So we've talked about a lot today.
We have.
We've gone from, like,
Yeah.
the smell of fresh bread
Mm-hmm.
to robots.
Robots. It's been quite a journey.
It really has.
Through the ins and outs of being a baker.
So for someone listening who's,
Yeah.
like, really thinking about making this career change,
Mm-hmm.
what's, like, the big takeaway?
I think it comes down to this.
Okay.
Baking.
Yeah.
Like any career path,
Right.
it's not always easy.
Yeah. That's not all.
It's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
There are going to be early mornings.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be challenges.
Yeah.
And yeah, there might even be robots.
Robots.
But there are also so many amazing things about it.
Okay.
Like you get to work with your hands.
Yeah.
You get to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to be a part of this industry
Yeah.
that's constantly changing.
That's a good point.
So it never gets boring.
It's about the journey then,
It really is.
not just the destination.
Exactly. And if you're ready to start that journey,
Yeah.
RoleCatcher's Guide is a great place to start.
It really is. They give you all the ingredients
Yeah.
to, like,
Yeah.
bake up an awesome career.
I love that.
Yeah. So as you're thinking about your future and you're surrounded by flour in ovens and maybe even a robot or two,
Beep, boop.
ask yourself,
Yeah,
what kind of baker do I want to be?
that's a great question.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive.